So the article I chose was That's How We Do It, Friendship Work Between High Schoolers with and Without Autism or Developmental Disabilities. It's by Zachary Rossetti from Boston University, and it was published in 2011. So, why I chose this article was because social interaction between individuals with developmental disability, mainly autism, and their peers without disabilities in a secondary education setting seemed very, very interesting to me. I know some individuals with autism that are really social, and I know some individuals with autism that are not social at all. So high school is an interesting time for all students. The article highlights some of the interaction between individuals with autism and their peers and how they become from a formal setting to being meaningful and outside of school. This was a qualitative study, and it studied the dynamics between 3 groups of young adults. It looked at how friends interacted with a nonverbal, struggling with movement, someone who has anxiety and uses a wheelchair. So, first, friendships are meaningful relationships that are based on shared interests. These relationships that are examined are not based on a helping the handicapped type of situation that often occurs in school. So what I found interesting in this article was there's a difference between a friendship in a formal sense, like a formal friendship program, and a friendship that just happens naturally. So formal friendship programs are used in school where a student is set up with another person, and it's more of a helper-helpee based. It's used to foster inclusion and develop relationships. These programs are often only used in school times, so some of the students who have these programs don't really develop friendships outside of the school time. So there are usually 6 types of relationships between individuals with developmental disabilities and their peers in a formal program. There's ghosts and guests, inclusion kid / different friend, the all help, just another kid or student, regular friends, and then BFFs or best friends forever. So some of these provide a lot of interaction between peers and others provide none. The most interaction is the all help relationship because students become more like teachers than actual peers. But just another student or kid, regular friends, and BFF provides the most long-standing interactions and become real friendships that occur outside of the school allotted time. Students without disabilities tend to feel more like helpers rather than friends. This is a problem with the formal friendship program and was another thing I found really interesting, that students that are set up in these programs tend to feel more like teachers or helpers than actual friends, which is the opposite of what these programs are trying to do. Another thing that was found interesting was research has found that peer supports lead to more interaction between a student with a developmental disability or pretty much any disability than with a special ed teacher. Natural supports should be given to ensure that opportunities to relate to their peers happen during class time. And And then natural supports will help students develop their relationships along with the peer supports and outside the peer supports. So they'll be able to connect with all students in these opportunities rather than just their peer support or the special education teacher. So what was observed was the naturally formed relationships that occur in the high school setting and after school programs. It was done over a 6-month period, and it was observed, and the participants were interviewed, asked about their best friend, questions like that, and the data was coded by the interviewer based on what the questions were. I like this because it's not really numbers, it's based on the individual students and their friendship, so you can kind of see how some things change and like what the findings were. So what I found the most important in this article was the findings after studying these students, and there was 3 components of how friendships were enacted. So these are connection of the friendship. Each friend contributed to the enjoyed and shared the relationship, so it was an equal partnership. It wasn't just one feeling like they were helping the other. It was based on shared interests, mutual other stuff, like same activities, so the relationship just happened naturally. Another finding was there were various difficulties that these friends had to overcome, but so it was the potential barriers of a friendship that all friendships go through, but because one had a developmental disability, mainly autism, these potential barriers were harder to overcome, but the friendships were able to overcome them and continue. And then the last was the example of friendship work. And that was just a negotiation of difficulties and coming together to overcome these potential barriers, which is important in any friendship, but with a person with a developmental disability like autism, the friends need to know like when the individual wants to be alone, when to get them kind of out of their own mind, what they enjoy doing, like what their hobbies are, like doing activities together. So overall, the friendship works because it becomes second nature to all of the friends who are truly enjoyed the friendship, and it's a meaningful friendship and it happens outside of school naturally. Shared interests, things like that, make the friendship better than what would happen if it was set up in a classroom setting.